And I just want to say good morning and welcome. We're excited for this next 45 minutes or so to dig into Zoom 101. And then starting at 11 o'clock, we'll have Zoom 201. And you're welcome to stay right on this exact link for the next session that starts at 11. Or you can jump off as well. And we're recording both sessions and we will post them to that resource page for you to refer to after that. So I'm going to kick it over to Kyle. He's our partner at Zoom, to teach us more. Good morning, Kyle,
Awesome.
and welcome.
Thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate that. As Erin said, we have a whole lot of good stuff coming your way today. We'll be starting off with our 101 training today. From there, we'll jump into the 201 training with Kathy, which will go a little bit more in depth into some of the features that you guys will be using quite a bit. So let's go ahead and get things started here. All right, guys, so Zoom 101, we'll be covering all of the basics today. As I said, my name is Kyle Jordan, and I'm a customer success manager here at Zoom. So as far as our agenda goes for today, we'll be covering all sorts of good stuff. Of course, we'll be getting logged into your account, and we'll be touching on both the web account and the desktop client app, which are both a little bit different. From there, we'll go into scheduling meeting, how to use and run the meetings, and the hosting controls. And then, of course, we'll wrap everything up with some resources and some great support articles for you guys to make sure that you're set up for success from the start. So first things first, what we're going to have you do is actually sign into your Zoom account. So what we're going to do for this, we actually have a custom vanity URL for you guys. So as you can see there, if you visit the cms-k12-nc-us.zoom.us, which I'll be posting that in the chat here right now for you guys. There we go. So if you head to that URL that I just posted in the chat, that will bring you to this page that you see here on the screen. Something to note quick is that we are planning on branding this page specifically to you guys, so you will see some more of your personal branding on this page in the future. So if you come to log in and you notice something a little different, that would be why. But from there, you can simply click sign into your account. And when you go to sign in, you'll enter your email address and password and click sign in from there. All right, guys, so once you are signed in, you'll notice that you're brought directly to your profile page of your Zoom web account. Keep in mind, you'll often hear this referred to as your Zoom portal. So if we're ever talking to you, we say, hey, go ahead to your Zoom portal. That will just be the Zoom web page here. So when you're brought into your Zoom web portal, you're brought to your profile page up at the very top left here that I have outlined with our laser pointer. So from there on this page, you have a couple key things, including your PMI or your personal meeting ID. We also refer to that as a PMI, as I said. So if you do hear that, that is just referring to your personal meeting ID. You also have your personal link right below your PMI right here. And your personal link is your personal link is associated to your PMI. You can use that link to start meetings and everyone will be brought into your personal meeting. Additionally, if we scroll down just a little bit further, this is a really important piece of information right here is our calendar and contact integration. So with this, if you can come in here and you can configure your calendar and contacts, that way, once you have that configured and set up, all of your contacts from your email provider will be brought into your Zoom account, into your Zoom chat. So you have all of those contacts ready to go for you there. So moving down just a little bit further, we're going to scroll down to our settings tab on the left-hand side here. And once you click into that settings tab, you will notice that you have your meeting tab up top, you have a recording and a telephone tab. For today, we'll be staying in this meeting tab for right now and just going through a lot of these settings in your meeting settings. Something I do want to preface this with is that you may not have access to change some of these settings. So as you can see here for our waiting room, that is currently turned on and it is not locked. But as we get later in the presentation here, you may see an example of one of these settings that is locked, and it will actually show a little padlock icon right next to the toggle switch, and it will not allow you to adjust that setting. That would be because that is locked on the organization level. So the admins for your account don't want you to be able to change that setting. They have it locked for a reason. If you do feel you do need to change that setting, you can always reach out to one of the admins on your account and have that conversation with them from there. But as long as it's not locked, you have full access to turn that on and off at your discretion. So again, as we're going through these settings, there are so many different settings. Everyone likes their account set up differently. Everyone has their own preferences. So one of the best things that you can do is actually just jump into your web portal on your end and just scroll through these settings, read them in depth. We'll be going over a lot of the important ones today. But like I said, one of the best things you can do is just jump in there and read through these whenever you have some free time, because there's just about anything that you can do with these settings. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and dive into the settings here. So as we said, our first options up top here are our waiting rooms. So waiting rooms allow you to control who enters your meeting and when they enter the meeting. So if you don't want everyone coming in at the same time, you can enable this waiting room and they will all then be put into this waiting room. You as the host or co-host of the meeting have the ability to admit those participants into the meeting as you would like. You can also leave them in the waiting room, or you can decline them and remove them from the meeting as well. So that's just another extra layer of security that you have here. Additionally, right below that, we have our require a password when scheduling new meetings. As we're going through these next couple of pages, you'll see a couple options for these passwords in these waiting rooms and different abilities that you have with those. So if we scroll down just a little bit further here, you'll see right below that, we also have our waiting room options for you. So those waiting rooms here, oh, sorry about that. Just scroll down here to our passcodes. So the passcodes down here, again, some more passcode options that you have here. You can require a passcode for instant meetings or when scheduling new meetings, like I said. So scrolling down just a little bit further, here are some of those other passcode options I was talking about. So you can enable the webinar passcode, but this is one that's important to take note of here, the embedded passcode in invite link for one-click join. So what this is it adds a passcode to your meeting, but then when you send out that meeting invite, anyone who has that actual link for the meeting that you sent out, that passcode will actually be embedded in that link. So as long as they're clicking that link to join the meeting, the passcode will automatically be applied. They won't have to manually enter it, and they'll be entered into the meeting from there. This comes in handy for anyone who just has your meeting ID or is trying to join your meeting without that link. They will be required to use that password when joining. All right, guys, so we're scrolling on just a little bit further down here. We have all of our schedule meeting settings. So this is really important to come through and get these set up from the start. That way, all of your meetings, you know what to expect as people are coming to your meetings, you know how they're configured. And the perfect example here is just your host video and your participants videos. You have the choice, excuse me, you have the choice to turn those on or off here, but this is a perfect example of a locked setting. So we can't see the little lock icon right next to it, but as this note down below says, our administrator has locked this setting and we are not able to change that. So if you do come across that and you would like to change that setting, just reach out to your administrator and, like I said, have that conversation with them there. All right, guys, so right below that, we have our audio type. So this is the audio type that is provided to your participants as they come into the meeting of what they're allowed to join with. So as you can see here, we have the option for telephone or computer, or sorry, telephone and computer audio, or you can select just telephone audio or just computer audio. Again, those options are up to you. So whatever your preference is, you can come in here and set them there. Scrolling on down just a little bit further here, some more meeting settings that we have here. You have that enable personal meeting ID, which is what we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting. If you would like to use that PMI or personal meeting ID to start meetings, you'll just go ahead and turn this on, and then you can use that for your meetings there. Right above that, we also have our allow participants to join before the host. So if we did have this enabled as it shows now, that would allow any participants for your meeting to join and be in the meeting before the host itself arrives. If we have this setting turned off, it will put those participants into more of a waiting room until the host starts the meeting, and then it will allow those participants to join. Additionally, down here, we have some more options for the PMI and when you can use that or what it is used for. Then right below that, we also have the option to mute participants upon entry. This is a good one to consider just because people come into meetings sometimes, they automatically assume they're going to be muted, and it can get quite hectic. But you as the host or co-host do have the option to mute or request them to mute themselves once they come in. But just keep in mind, you do have that option here as well. And then finally down here, we just have an upcoming meeting reminder that will notify you of any upcoming meetings as they're coming up there. All right, so scrolling on just a little bit further down to our in-meeting basic tab here. So in this, you have the option to require encryption for third-party endpoints. Not really something we need to worry about here, as that. And then right below that, we also have our chat and private chat options. So this is definitely something to consider if you would like your students or your participants for your meetings to be able to use that chat feature and talk back and forth. You can enable that or disable that here. You also have the options to prevent students or participants from saving that chat. And then you can also turn on or off private chat. So if you don't want participants to be able to privately chat one-on-one messages to each other, you can go ahead and just toggle this private chat button here, and that will not allow the participants to privately chat. The chat feature will still be enabled for everyone to see. You just can't send those private messages. Then below that right here, we just have our auto saving chats. If you would like those chats from those meetings to auto save, you do have that option here. All right, moving on down just a little bit further here, we have our show meetings control toolbar. This one I'm a big fan of. I hate when my toolbar disappears or moves around, so I always like to be able to see it and know where it is. So I usually leave this setting on. That way, when I'm in a meeting, I can see all of my controls right in front of me. I know where they are, but again, that's totally up to your preference. Then down here, this is another important one. If you're ever in a lesson with your students where you're trying to share with them something on one of your Zoom windows, you do have that option here. So with this setting turned on, when you're sharing your screen, as I am now, I would actually, with this setting on, it would allow you to see all of my Zoom windows. So my Zoom chat, my meetings, all of that stuff. So if there's ever anything you need to share from your Zoom chat in a meeting, we'll want to make sure that this is enabled so that they can see those Zoom windows. If that is disabled, they simply will not see those Zoom windows. Even if it's right in the middle of your screen, it will just delete those out of there for you. Moving on, right here, we have our screen sharing. So this is asking you who you would like to allow to screen share. So right now, this is activated. We're allowing everyone to screen share. And right now, we're allowing all participants to screen share. And then this other one right below is who can start screen sharing while someone else is screen sharing. And for this setting, we have it set to host only. So only the host can take over that screen sharing from someone else. As a teacher, this may be pretty important for you guys to have on, so you can take that screen sharing back whenever you do need to. Then right here below, we have disable desktop screen share for users. And then one of my personal favorites, I know you guys are going to love it, is our annotation tool. That's actually what I am using right now with our laser pointer, and we'll be covering that a bit later. But as a teacher or instructor, anything like that, for these meetings, running these meetings, it's an awesome tool. It allows you to draw attention to your students where they need to look. You can outline, circle, all sorts of good stuff. But like I said, we'll dive into that a bit deeper later on here. All right, guys, so moving just a little bit further, another one of our EDU favorites is going to be our whiteboard. This is an awesome collaboration tool that allows you to share a whiteboard, and then all participants in the meeting can collaboratively write. They can draw on that whiteboard, they can write their ideas. So it's a great point to really bring all of your students, get them together, get them engaged with one another. And then, of course, you can all see that content right there. And then you can, of course, save that whiteboard content. So like I said, it's great for brainstorming, just getting people together. And you do have that option here. Additionally, right below, we have our remote control and nonverbal feedback. So our remote control, what this allows you to do is, say for the sake of this meeting, if we had remote control enabled, that would allow me to pass off my mouse controls over to Kathy, and then she can then take over my mouse and move it around the screen for this presentation, click around. So that basically allows someone else to take control of your mouse during the presentation there. Additionally, we have our nonverbal feedback, and this is something that we will cover again once we get into the platform itself. But this is a little feedback buttons that your students can click if they want you to slow down, if they would like you to speed up, if they have a question. They have those icons, and we'll go over where to find those a little bit later here. Very similar to that nonverbal feedback, we also have our meeting reactions, which is one of our favorites. So you can enable those reactions and people can give you a thumbs up, they can clap for you. There's a couple different fun emojis that are in there with that again, we'll show you guys later on here. All right, so moving on here, we're just jumping down to our advanced tab here. So for this one, the main point I wanted to cover here is going to be our breakout room. The breakout rooms, again, are an awesome feature that allow you to break out your full room of participants into as many breakout rooms or smaller rooms as you would like. So say I have a meeting running, I have 50 participants in the meeting, and I would like to break them out into smaller groups so they can have a deeper conversation and then come back to the main room to have a overall conversation about whatever they were talking about. I could set up those 5 breakout rooms, and then I could put 10 participants each into those 5 breakout rooms. I could then split them out into those breakout rooms. They can come back, we can pull them back at any time, and you as the host can bounce into those breakout rooms, check in on them, see how it's going, see if they have any questions. But like I said, we will jump into that more in depth later on as well. All right. So moving on just a little bit further down here, we have our language interpretation and our caption, our closed caption. So again, those are features that we will cover when we get to those buttons once we're in the app itself. But again, this allows for a language interpretation if you have any students or if you would have any anyone who'd be coming into your meetings that you need to have a different language for. We do have some of those options for you here. Additionally, we have our group HD video. You can enable that if you would like. Again, a lot of this is down to preference, but the big point on this page here is going to be our virtual background. This is a really cool feature. It's a big hit. I'm currently using one of our virtual backgrounds, but what it allows you to do is virtually set any background to your screen share. And we will cover that later, where to find all those virtual backgrounds, how to get them set up, all that good stuff. We will jump into that again when we get into the platform here in just a minute. All right, so moving on just a little bit further down here, very similar to our virtual backgrounds is going to be our video filters up here. Again, a huge hit with our EDU, students love it. I'm sure you guys have all seen the Snapchat filters where you can put a pig nose on your face or little ears on, whatever it may be. We now have that in Zoom, so they can put a little face mask on virtually or put little dog ears, whatever it may be. There's some pretty fun options in there. All right, so moving on down here, we have some more advanced options for you. Nothing we really need to spend too much time on today. So we'll go ahead and jump on over to our email notifications here. So with our email notifications, it's exactly as it sounds. This is where you'll come to set any of the settings for email notifications that you would like to receive or not to receive. So as you can see here, when a cloud recording is available, so if you're ever recording a meeting to the cloud, you can get a notification when that cloud recording is available. It does take some time for translation, not long by any means, but it is nice to have that notification so you do know when it is ready. Additionally, we have that get a notification when attendees join before host. So we had talked about that setting earlier where you can allow people to join before you. If you do allow that, you can get notifications when someone else does join your meeting. Then when a meeting is canceled or when an alternative host is set or removed from a meeting, again, one of the best things that you guys can do is just scroll through these settings on your own. So many of these are preference. So just check them out, jump in there, scroll down to that email notification tab and just play around. And you can change them at any point in time. All right, so moving on just a little bit further down here, we have our scheduling privilege, which is something that I wanted to cover briefly with you guys. So what scheduling privilege allows you to do is assign someone else to schedule meetings on your behalf. So this is really helpful for like executive assistants, any assistants like that, or if you have a teacher's aide, anything like that, who would maybe be scheduling meetings for you. You can come in here and give them that privilege and then they can schedule your meetings on your behalf. You can go in there, start the meeting, run the meeting, but that allows them to schedule it for you. Additionally, you have the option to schedule for someone else down here right below as well, if you would like that. All right, guys, so scrolling up to the very top again and clicking over to our recording tab here, just a couple quick things to cover. Again, a lot of these are preference when it comes down to these recording settings, but you do have a bunch of options here. So here host can give the participants the permissions to record locally. So if you want your students to be able to record meetings or anything like that, you do have that option here. And then a lot of these settings down below with the cloud recording just come down to the layout of how it is going to be recorded. So as you can see here, we have record active speaker with screen share, record gallery view. So if you would like to see all of your students alongside with that screen share, you have that option here. Again, there are a bunch of breakouts of different options that you have. So like I said, just jump in here, check out these settings, and you should be good to go from there. All right, guys, so we aren't going to spend too much time on the telephone tab here today, but if we do get to that point of adopting that, we will absolutely come back and cover that. But for now, we're going to move on down to our Zoom desktop application. So first things first, the first thing you're going to want to do is, of course, get Zoom downloaded. So to do that, we're going to head to zoom.us/download. So once you head there, you will see this same screen that I have in front of me right here today. You'll see the option to first Zoom client for meetings, and that is what we're going to want to download today. So once you get that downloaded, you're just going to click this download button. It'll start the download for you, and everything will run smoothly from there. But once you are downloaded, you will see this sign-in screen. Very similarly, based on how your organization is set up, if we have single sign-on, we have the option to click our single sign-on here. And we also have our email, username, and password. You can also log in with Google or Facebook if your organization allows that. Keep in mind, you will want to log into whatever is associated to your account. So you won't want to log in with your personal Facebook account to try and connect to your business Zoom account. So once you have everything downloaded, we're going to go ahead and get signed in. And once we are signed in, this is exactly what you guys are going to see here. So with this screen here, up in the very top right setting is our profile and our settings icon. So if we go ahead and click into that setting icon, this is what you're going to see. And keep in mind, this is the breakout for the Mac and the Windows here, or sorry, the Windows and the Mac on the right-hand side. But a lot of these options are the same here. So under our general tab up top here, again, just a lot of general information about your account. If you would like to enter full screen mode when you're starting or joining a meeting, again, a lot of personal preferences with these settings here, but I definitely recommend jumping into these settings and just taking a glance over them. In here, you can get reminders of your upcoming meetings. You can change to dark mode if you would like, and you can even change your reaction skin tone for the emojis that we have in there. All right, guys, so once we go through these settings, we're just gonna click through this left-hand panel just to get you guys familiar with it. And the first one is going to be our video tab. So under this video tab, this is where you can come to enable your HD video. You can touch up your appearance, adjust for low light. And these settings are very helpful when it comes to meetings and how you look coming across the camera. So I definitely recommend just jumping in there and playing around with them. So scrolling down just a little bit further here, we have some more video options. We have the option to always display participant names on their videos, turn off videos when joining a meeting. Again, a lot of personal preferences in here, but one I do want to point out is under this video tab here, you will have the option to display up to 49 participants in your gallery view, which is the largest it will get. So if you would like to see all of your participants, if you have a class larger than 30, you can come in here, click this setting, and you will see all 49 participants in that gallery view of your Zoom window. All right. So moving on down just a little bit further to our audio tab, this is where you can come to always test your speaker and your microphone to make sure everything's working properly. Just something to note, if you ever do test your speaker or your microphone, be sure that you are muted in the meeting before testing that, so that test sound does not play out to the rest of the participants in the meeting. But either way, you can come in here and you can test your speaker and microphone to make sure everything's working properly, or you can change your microphone or speaker source. So if you have AirPods or a different source, you can always come in here and just change them from the drop-down menu. All right, so moving on a little bit further to our screen share screen here. So this is where you can come to adjust any settings for screen sharing whenever you're sharing your screen itself. Again, like I said, you have the enter full screen when a participant starts sharing their screen. And then you can maximize Zoom window when a participant shares. Again, a lot of preferences in here, but this is where you would come to find them. One of my favorites is going to be the side-by-side in here. The side-by-side mode will allow you to see your screen share right alongside all of your participants. So you can really keep an eye on everything that's going on. All right, guys, so moving down to our phone here, this is simply where your direct number or your company phone numbers would be for any calls that you're making through Zoom. And then you have your default calls for Zoom here, where they're coming from. Again, we don't need to worry about this too much today, so we'll just move on down to our chat here. All right, guys, so under chat, in Zoom chat, you have a bunch of different options here, just about like everything else. But these are all, again, a lot of personal preference settings. So you can come in here, you can change it to dark mode if you would like to see your unread message count or where you would like to see your unread message count. And then you can also change the order of what chats are showing up. So if you would like to show your unread chats at the top, you do have those options in here. So I definitely recommend jumping into this chat in the screen share in that general tab and just taking a scroll through them, checking it out, changing those settings, playing around with them. And that's the best way to get acquainted with it. All right, guys, on to one of our favorites, the backgrounds and filters. So under virtual backgrounds, this is where you'll come to add any new virtual backgrounds. So as you can see here, when you log into your Zoom desktop client, you'll notice that we have a couple of virtual backgrounds pre-uploaded for you. In addition to that, you can come in here and add as many virtual backgrounds as you want. You can add your own, or it's as easy as simply going to Google and typing in Zoom virtual background. There are so many options on there that you can just save any of those files and upload them here, and you'll be good to go. In your guys' scenario, even a classroom, that could be something fun, even your classroom that your students are normally in. So those are just some fun options that you have here. Additionally, we have our video filters. So as we were talking, very similar to those Snapchat filters, we have our video filters here where you can add a face mask, mouse ears, all sorts of fun stuff. So if you ever want to do a costume party with your class, whatever it may be, there's some fun ideas in here. All right, guys, moving on down to our studio effects. So if you click into our studio effects down here under our video filter tab, you'll notice that you can also throw on eyebrows, you can throw on a mustache and beard, you can put lipstick on. You can get real crazy with it if you want, but it's definitely a fun time if you want to play around with your class sometime. All right, guys, moving on down to our recordings tab here. So this will show you where any of your local recording is tabbed. And then if you have cloud recording enabled, you will have the option for cloud recording down here on the bottom side. For local recording, like I said, you can choose where that recording is saved. And then some more options that you have down here, you can optimize for third-party video editor, which I don't think we'll need to worry about. You can add timestamps, record video during screen sharing, all sorts of options. You guys do have those under the recording tab here. All right, guys. So jumping on down to our profile tab here. So this is where you can come to see your personal profile. You'll have the option to click in and edit your profile, which will be brought to your Zoom web portal to edit that. And then you also, of course, have the option to change your subscription or view any advanced features. One of my favorite parts about this down here below is you can also see any devices that you have signed on with. So if you ever need to remove one, if you lose your phone or whatever it may be, you have the option to see what's going on with them here, what status they are, and what devices you have signed in on. You, of course, also have the option to sign out of those devices if you would like, or sign out of all devices.
Kyle, before you start on the next slide,
Yes.
I wanted to just make sure that everyone is, you don't have to download this now while we're talking about this. This will be available for you at zoom.us/download. When you go there, it can certainly be after this training. We'd like for you to kind of play along on Kyle's screen, so you're not trying to run to keep up. So don't worry about downloading anything. We put the download URL into the chat, so you can just kind of watch Kyle go through these and then take the time to download after the training. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. And something to keep in mind too is we will be sending out this recording to you along with a bunch of great resources related to everything that we've gone over today. So keep an eye out for that, but we'll get you guys up and running for sure. All right, guys, so moving on down to our statistics tab here. Under statistics, this is where you can come to see if you're ever having trouble with a meeting, if your video is not working properly, if you're having trouble hearing someone. This is a great place to come to get a snapshot of what's going on with your account and how everything is running. So as you can see here, you have your overall tab of how everything is doing. If you're noticing just audio issues, you can click into this audio tab. Same with video, screen sharing, and phone. But if you're ever having any issues, those will show up here, and you should be good to go from there. If you ever find an issue, you do have the option to send a report, which will come directly to our team as well. All right, guys. So moving on down to our feedback, this is just a quick little fun feedback. If there's ever any features that you'd like to see added, if there's ever anything that you notice, or just feedback in general you'd like to give to Zoom, we love hearing from you guys. So you do have this feedback tab right here. If you ever would like to get anything into our hands or any ideas, comments, suggestions, send it our way. All right, guys, so moving on down here, for all of you keyboard warriors, we have some awesome shortcuts for you. For any of you that love shortcuts, I know I do. I'd recommend jumping into this keyboard shortcuts tab once you do get your desktop client downloaded, and you'll have a full list of all your shortcuts right here. And finally, moving on to our accessibility, nothing we need to spend too much time on here, but if we do use closed captioning, you can adjust the size of what that text looks like. Again, you have your meeting control options here to always show meeting control. You can adjust the size of your chat display. Just a couple personal preference options for you there. All right, guys, so moving into our Zoom desktop application, the application itself. So we just spent that time up here in our settings. Now we're just gonna go through the actual application. So as you can see here, we have our home tab, and this is what tab you will see anytime you log into your account or when you first open it. And from this home tab, you have the option to start a new meeting right away using your personal meeting ID. You have the option to join a meeting or schedule a meeting, and of course, simply screen share if you would like to do that. And then over here on the right-hand side, you'll see today's date and time, and then you also see a full list of that below of any upcoming meetings for today. So when you log in the morning, when you're getting ready to go for your day, I always come to this tab, check out what meetings I have listed out for the day, and you can even join or start those meetings just by clicking this button right here. All right, guys, so jumping into our chat tab here, as you can see, our chat is simply a chat bubble. You have your contacts all listed out on the left side, and then like any other instant messenger or chat feature, you have your chat here in the main portion. So under this option here, if you click our screenshot here or that drop down arrow next to screenshot, you'll see a couple different options to where you can add images from your computer, from Dropbox, from Google Drive, OneDrive, all sorts of options that you have there. And then of course you can add the emojis if you'd like, the GIFs, all sorts of fun stuff there. All right, so jumping over to our meetings tab on the top side here. So very similar to that homepage, you'll also see a list of any upcoming meetings that you have on the left-hand side over here. Again, for all of these upcoming meetings, you can click into them. You'll see all necessary information for that meeting, and you can even join that meeting right here, from here, just clicking that join button. Additionally, you can see any of your past recorded meetings. If you click over into the recorded tab, it will show you all of your past recorded meetings there as well. All right, guys, so moving over to the contacts, this is the part that ties into that calendar and contacts integration that we went over at the very beginning of this training. So once you get that set up, any of your contacts from that calendar integration will be brought here into your contacts tab for you to reach out to. You'll have all of the information that you need here. As you can see, you have the breakdowns, you have all contacts below. So that is something to keep in mind there. And you can always add new contacts as well by clicking the plus button on the top left-hand side. All right, guys, so once you click into a specific contact, for this example, Colin Sage, you'll see Colin's name, his date, his available status, which right now it shows that he's available on his cell phone. If you were to be on his desktop client app, that would actually show as a solid green dot. But from here, you have the option to start a chat with Colin. You can meet with Colin, you can send him a text or give him a call. You have all those options, as well as his contact information down below. All right, guys, so now we're going to jump into hosting the Zoom meeting and all of the fun controls that are involved with that. So bear with me, it'll be a great time. We got all sorts of good features in here for you guys. I'll know you love it. But as you can see, one of the first things is going to be joining your audio when you come into the meeting. As you can come into the meeting, you can click this join with computer audio option. And you also have that phone call option if we are going to allow that. From when we were going over our settings earlier, you had the option for phone and computer, or just phone or just computer. This is where those options would show up. So if we stick with just computer, they'll simply click that join computer audio option and they will be good to go from there. If they do use that phone option, they will have their numbers listed out here. Something to keep in mind is I definitely recommend against using those toll-free numbers. I know it's confusing as it says toll-free, but those ones can sometimes incur charges. So I definitely recommend sticking with the top number or using the computer audio wherever possible. All right, guys, and then moving on to our meeting information. So once the meeting starts or once we join a meeting, this is the screen that we're going to see here. As you can see, we have our participants across the top. And then we have our meeting information in this little green shield in the top left-hand corner. So if you click that shield, you'll see your meeting ID, your host, the name of the host, as well as your invite link. So if you ever have participants that you need to get into the meeting quickly, you can always come up here, copy this invite link, send it off to that participant, and you will be good to go from there. All right, so moving on to our click on screen for controls. So whenever you click on the screen, whether it's that presenter view like we're seeing here, you'll have the option to mute, stop video, chat. You can pin the video or spotlight the video, which pinning a video will keep that video wherever you pin it so you can always see it. And then the spotlight video will always put a green box around that, that speaker so everyone knows who's speaking or knows who that's coming from. Additionally, you have the option to make them a host as well. So if you give them host permissions, that will then allow them to run the meeting. That will give them all of these controls, but you do have that option there. And of course, you can rename, request camera control, or assign them to type for your closed caption. So moving on here, we have our different views in the top right-hand side. So if you ever click up into this view, what we're seeing right here is going to be our active speaker view. So whoever's speaking will have the big block in the screen and all the other participants will be across the top. So if we click over and switch over to our gallery view, this is what our gallery view will look like. It'll show all of your students or all the participants of the meeting in this screen for you right here. And again, as we were going through those settings, we had that option to show 49 participants in gallery view. If we do check that, it will show all 49 of your participants in this view for you right here. It's a great option. And you also have the option to reorder participants. So you can click and drag on any of these participants. If there's certain students that you'd like to keep an eye on or need to keep at the front of the screen, whatever it may be, you have the option to click and drag them around so you can keep an eye on them there. All right, guys, so back to these video views. This is our active speaker view that we were talking about. Again, it will just show the active speaker of the meeting in that main tile. So moving on down here, whenever you're finished up with a meeting, you can click this end meeting button in the bottom right-hand corner. Something to keep in mind is that if you are the host of the meeting, it will end the meeting for all other participants as well. So just keep that in mind. All right, guys, so very similarly to at the beginning of this meeting, we had our audio and video settings here. If you click that little up arrow caret next to that the microphone, you'll see all of our audio settings. So this is where you can come to select a different speaker if you have multiple speakers, a different microphone. I know I have trouble sometimes when I switch to my AirPods or whatever it may be. Quick and easy way to fix that is just click this arrow and select your different audio type. Additionally, right down here, this is where you can come as well to test your speaker and microphone. If you ever join into a meeting, your students are having a hard time hearing you, whatever it may be, you can click this option and test that speaker and microphone to make sure everything's working well. Additionally, if your computer's audio is not working, you do always have the option to switch to phone audio if you would like here as well. So moving over to our video settings, again, this is where you can come to select a different camera. And this is also where you'll come to change your virtual background or even add a new virtual background. So if we click this button or the choose video filter button, it will bring us that same screen that we were at during our settings to where you can upload those new virtual backgrounds. And of course, you also have your video settings, that same page that we were on as well. All right, so moving over to security, this one is very important here, the security tab. So this is where you can come to lock the meeting or enable a waiting room. So remember, the waiting room is a waiting room where the participants will sit in until either the host or the co-host will admit them into the meeting or deny them. So if you would like to get that enabled, you can do that here. But our lock meeting is another important one. So this is a great way to ensure that you do not have any unwanted guests joining into your meeting. I know everyone's heard the Zoom bombing, but this is a great way to prevent that. So once you have your students into your meeting, if you lock this meeting, no one will be able to join, even if they have the meeting ID, if they have the link. So if you know all of your students are in that meeting or in that room like they're supposed to be, you can absolutely go ahead and lock it, and that will prevent anyone else from joining in that you don't want there. Keep in mind, you can unlock a meeting at any time that will allow participants to join back in if they have that link. And then down here, you just have some options for your participants. So if you want them to screen share, chat, rename themselves, or unmute themselves, you have those options here. If you would not like them to have those abilities, you can simply uncheck these boxes and they won't be able to use the chat, the screen share, and all that good stuff. Additionally, you do have the option to remove participant. If you ever do have an unwanted guest, you do have the option to remove them just by clicking this clicking this button, and they will be booted from the meeting. And then, of course, you always have the option to report as well, which if you ever do have any issues, definitely reach out to us, let us know, or use that report feature. So as you can see here, we just went ahead and enabled the waiting room. Once you enable that waiting room, when a participant tries to join, this is what you'll see on the top right-hand side. It says Archie entered the waiting room, and you do have the option to admit him right here. But if we were to click our participants tab, that would then show him on the left-hand side, like it would show all of your participants, with that same admit or deny button right next to him. So as you can see here, this is that participants view I was just talking about. We can either remove them or admit them, and then you can also see who is currently in the meeting down here. So once you have everyone joined into the meeting, if you ever need to make adjustments for any individual guests, if you hover over, for this example, Robert Fitzgerald, you'll see the option to ask them to unmute and the option for more. If we go ahead and click that more dropdown, we'll see some options to where you can start a chat with Robert, you can stop his video or spotlight his video, of course, make him host or co-host to give him those same permissions that you have, assign to closed caption, rename, put in the waiting room, and of course, remove or report. So you do have those options. All you need to do is hover over that guest and you will see that full menu breakdown. Additionally, down here on the bottom under this more dropdown, if we go ahead and click that, some more preferences for your participants here. If you would like to mute your participants upon entry, if you would like to ask everyone to unmute. So if you're looking for some feedback from your students, you'd like everyone communicating, everyone interacting, you can go ahead and ask them all to unmute their microphones. Additionally, here you have allow participants to rename themselves. That is an option that is up to you, but that can cause some issues with students renaming themselves. So just keep that in mind there as well. So moving on here, we're going to jump over to our contacts here. So whenever we go to invite participants, so on this back page here, if we click this invite button under the participants tab, this is the screen that we're going to see. So whenever we go to invite participants here, you can invite someone directly from your contacts, or you can even copy the invite link or copy the invitation to send to them directly. So once they are sent, they can join into the meeting and they'll be good to join from there. Moving on down to our chat here. In our chat feature, again, you guys have become familiar with it a little bit just using it today. But under this chat feature, you can see everyone's messages. You can change who the messages are being sent to. And then you also have the option to view the controls here. So under the controls here, this is where you can come to change who can use that chat feature. So if you don't want anyone to use that chat feature, you can turn it off. If you want the host only or everyone publicly, you have those options here to really control who can use that chat feature. Keep in mind on those main settings, your account settings, you do have the option to turn off that private chat or chat in general. So just keep that in mind as well. So moving on to our drop down here, if you would ever like to send a message to someone privately, all you'll need to do is select that drop down where it says everyone and select the participants that you would like to send it to. Keep in mind that will only be available if we do have that setting set up on your end. All right, guys, so moving on to our screen sharing here. Whenever you go to screen share, you'll just click this screen share button on the bottom side. Once you click that screen share, you'll see all sorts of different options for what you can share, which is really great because Zoom does a great job at breaking it down into every individual feature or every individual, program. So you'll have your Microsoft Windows on one, you'll have your Word document. As you can see here, you have your PowerPoints. So you have those full breakdowns, so you're really only sharing what you want them to see. But something I really do want to note here with our screen sharing, down here we have outlined our share computer sound and optimize screen share for video clip. Something that is very important is if you are ever sharing a video from your computer through a meeting out to your participants. So say you have a YouTube video that you wanted to share with all of your students. Something that we would want to do before we start sharing that video is come in here and click share computer sound. When we do that, that will allow Zoom to use that YouTube video sound and send it directly through the meeting to all of your participants so they're hearing the best quality sound possible. If we do not have this checked, it will try playing that sound through the speakers that are coming out, back into the microphone, and then back through your student speakers on their end, which causes for some pretty terrible audio quality. So just keep that in mind. If you ever do need to share your computer audio sound, just be sure to check this box here. So moving on here, this is where you can select any of the windows that you would like to share, your desktop windows, your PowerPoints, your Chrome windows, whatever it may be. Moving on to our advanced tab at the top here. So if you ever want to take it a little bit step further, if you would like to share your slides as a virtual background. So for example, for today's meeting, I could have taken these slides and set them as my virtual background. That would have me dancing around here in the main screen as you'd see a little video of me over top of those virtual backgrounds, or sorry, over top of those slides. And it's a pretty cool new feature to really get engaged and interact with your students, especially. I've always enjoyed using that one there. Additionally, you can share just a portion of your screen. You can share music or computer sound only. So if you don't want to share your screen, but you'd like to share the sound from a video, you have that option. And then of course, you can share content from a second camera. So as you can see here, if you have a camera over top that shows you working through a math problem, as well as a camera facing you face on, you do have the option to add that second camera here as well. All right, guys, moving over to our Files tab here, just a couple more options for you to share. You have your Dropbox, you have your OneDrive, Google Drive, and SharePoint. If you ever need to share documents or anything from one of these platforms, you can do that right from here under the Files tab. All right, guys, so we're getting there. I promise we're cruising on through. Now we're jumping into our meeting controls. So once you have your meeting started, you're sharing your screen here, you'll see this same meeting control toolbar at the top of the page. Again, our three favorites here are going to be our remote control, our annotation, and our pause share. Something very important that I want to hit home with you guys is if you come in here and you pause your share, so say you're recording a meeting as we're recording today's meeting. If you stop recording the meeting, or sorry, stop sharing, that will actually start a new share there. So you can click on the new share to start a new screen share without first stopping the current one. So instead of having that lag between where you have to stop sharing and then start a new one, you can simply just click that new share and it will overlap with your current share. Additionally, you have the option to pause your screen share. If you're ever sharing your screen and you need to pop over to a different window or move a couple things around, you can pause the share and that will stop projecting your current movements to the participants. They won't see that on their screen share. It'll simply freeze the screen wherever you hit that pause button, and then you can resume at any time to pick back up right where you left off. All right, and then we have our annotation tool, which we talked about a little bit, one of my favorites. If you click on that annotation tool, for example, the laser I'm using today, you have options to add hearts, arrows, you can circle things, outline things, all sorts of great options. As you can see here, this is something that Kathy is going to take a deep dive into in our 201 training to make sure you guys get the absolute most out of this. But as you can see here, you got plenty of options for what you can do with this annotation. So as you can see there, those are just some options that you have. You have your draw, stamp, and spotlight. You can change the format of your colors, all sorts of good stuff. But we'll let Kathy take that over for you guys a bit later here. All right, guys, so moving on to our recording button. So whenever you need to record a meeting, you'll see this record button down here in the bottom right-hand side, kind of in the middle of your screen. So we'll just go ahead and click that record button, and you will see the option to either record to the computer or record to the cloud. Keep in mind, if you record to the cloud, that will be saved for that will be saved on your account as a whole. If you save to your computer, that will be saved directly to your computer itself on the hard drive, not using any of your Zoom storage space. Something to keep in mind, anytime you do record to the cloud, it will use that Zoom storage space. But keep in mind, that will always change. So you can delete older meetings. You can set up those settings, which we'll go through a little bit in our 201 class. But you do have the two options for you there. All right, guys, so once you start recording a meeting, you'll see your controls in two different places, up here in the top left-hand corner or down here in that same toolbar. From there, you have the option to pause or stop your controls. Something I really want to hit home with you guys is if you stop recording a meeting, that will completely end the recording and you'll have to start a completely new recording in order to pick back up wherever you left off. In addition to that, if you use our pause feature though, whenever you pause the meeting, you can resume that recording at any point in time, and that will keep everything in one recording for you. So if you stop a meeting, then restart, that will give you multiple different recordings. But if you use that pause, it will keep everything under one fluent recording for you. So that's something to really hit home. If you're going through a full classroom session, you'll definitely want to use that pause button instead of the stop to make sure that everything is cohesive and you have that one recording if your students or yourself ever need it. All right, guys, so into our video breakout rooms. With our breakout rooms, we covered this a little bit at the beginning, but this allows you to put your participants into smaller rooms for them to collaborate, and then you can bring them back into the main room at any point in time. So with breakout rooms, if we click our little breakout room button down here, you will see the option to how many breakout rooms would you like to add. And again, that's up to your preference based on how many students you have, based on how many people you want in a group. But then down here below, you have the option to assign automatically, you can assign manually, or you can let the participants choose which room they go into. Keep in mind that you can pre-assign breakout rooms prior to a meeting from the Zoom web portal, but you can only pre-assign up to 200 participants. So say you have 210 participants that are going to be joining into these breakout rooms. Unfortunately, we will need to either automatically or manually assign them into those breakout rooms. But if we have 180 participants, we can actually pre-assign them before the meeting. That way you can click this breakout room button and then send them to their rooms without having to manually put them there. But keep in mind, if you're not worried about who's in which room with who, you can always assign them automatically, which will distribute those participants evenly to the breakout rooms. So we'll go ahead and hit create here. And once it is created, you'll see our breakout room listed up top here. We'll see under room 1, it'll show you the full breakout of who's in that room, as well as room 2, 3, and 4 if you have participants in there. So from here, you have the option to rename or delete a room. You can move participants to a different room if you would like. If you see someone in there that you would like in a different room, you can always move them to room 3, 4, whatever it may be. And then additionally, if you want to recreate all of these rooms, if you don't like how they're laid out, you can hit that recreate button and go through the process from the start to get them restarted. But once you're happy with how everything's looking, you like which rooms your students are going into, we'll go ahead and hit that open all rooms button. From there, it'll then ask us recreate how many breakout rooms, if we'd like to automatically assign them. Again, the same information, and this is for recreating those rooms. So once we're good to go there, we got Logan moved in here to room 2. We have everyone else in room 1. It'll show you this is who you would like to exchange it with. So if you'd ever like to exchange someone to a different room instead of just moving them, if you'd like to swap them with someone else, you click this exchange button and choose who you would like to swap them with. All right, guys, so under this settings icon wheel that we see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, if we click onto that, this is the window we will be brought up to. So from here, one of the main ones to point out is we do now have the option that allows participants to choose their own breakout rooms. So if that's something you're comfortable with, if you'd like your students to choose their own groups, who their partners are going to be, you can allow them to choose their breakout rooms from here, and they can select where they go into. Additionally, a few more settings down here. You can auto close breakout rooms after a certain amount of time. So if you want to give them a 10-minute challenge to go do something, you can set that room for 10 minutes, and then it will pull them all back into that main room with you at any point in time. All right, guys. So once we get our room opened up, it'll show you everyone who is in those rooms. You have the option to close those rooms out to bring everyone back to the main reading. And then you also, of course, have the option to broadcast a message to all of those rooms. So say you have a task or you want to give them, hey, 2-minute warning, we're coming back to the main room in 2 minutes. You can broadcast the message out to those breakout rooms saying, hey, this is your 2-minute warning. Come on back whenever you're ready. So it is pretty, you have all the features that you need there. It is pretty intuitive. Definitely one of our favorite features to use as well. All right, guys, so once we have that message sent out, if we want to broadcast the message, we'll simply just click that broadcast button, and that will send that message out to all of those rooms. From there, we're ready to get all of our rooms closed up, so we'll simply just click that close all rooms button, and it will bring everyone back to that main room with us. All right, guys, so this is one of our final pieces here is our Zoom reports. I know this is super important for you guys and your students to make sure that your students are attending and participating. So this is a quick walkthrough on how to get to your Zoom reports. So the first thing we're going to do is log into your Zoom web account, Zoom web portal. Once you're logged into your Zoom web portal using that same URL that we posted in the chat earlier, the CMS-K12-NC-US, once you guys are logged into there, you'll be brought back to the same screen. Excuse me. You'll be brought back to the same screen here with your profile information. For our reports, you're going to see this reports tab on the bottom left-hand corner of that left-hand toolbar. We'll click into that reports, and you'll see that you have options for two different kinds of reports. You have your usage report and your meeting report. So with your usage report, the meetings, participants, and meeting minutes, that is where you can go to view all of that information. So if you click into this usage report, it'll run a report for you of all your meetings. You can click into those meetings and view all of those participants, who were in those meetings, how long were they in the meeting, all sorts of good stuff there. Additionally, for our meeting and registration, or for our meeting reports that we have here, this is where you can review your registration registration reports and poll reports. So if you ever set up polls or anything like that, or registration for your meetings, anything like that, you can click into this meetings report tab here, and all that information will be provided for you. So finally, the last thing that we're going to cover is just our Zoom mobile application. It's a quick and easy way to get signed into your Zoom account if you ever need to check on something on the go. If you ever have any messages that you need to check out, I definitely recommend downloading that Zoom mobile app. So very similarly to our Zoom client app, all we're going to do is head to zoom.us/download. That's where you can find the apps. You can also, of course, go to the Apple Play Store, or the Google Play Store to find the correct Zoom version for you. Once you get it downloaded, you'll notice that you have a lot or all of the same functionality as you would on your desktop client. So it's a really great feature to have, easy on-the-go access to your Zoom account if you ever do need it. All right, guys, one of the last things, or the last thing here is for our 101 class is going to be resources and support. This is a super important piece of information. So our support.zoom.us is going to be our Zoom Help Center. There are so many great resources and articles in there. We have videos, tutorial walkthroughs, and we even have live trainings. If you would like to sign up for another training, we have plenty of those trainings live and recorded for you to check out at any point in time. So I definitely recommend checking out that support.zoom.us, and this is what it will look like on the right-hand side here. So you have your search, you have your top 20 resources, as well as any support topics. And I know this is something that Kathy is going to dive into a bit deeper in our 201 as well, so keep an ear out for that as well. All right, guys, and then just some tips and best practices for you. I'll let you guys read over these quick, but just make sure to test your audio and video before the meetings, make sure everything's working. Go through all of those settings, like I said, in your Zoom web portal. Just take a quick scroll through. It shouldn't take long at all, but just get familiar with all of those settings and all the different options that you have. From there, you guys should be set up for success, and I will get things handed off over to Kathy here. Do we have some time for questions, Kathy? You with me there, Kathy? All right, no worries. We'll jump into our Q&A over here on the right-hand side and see if we have any questions going on.
I am terribly sorry about that. My mouse was not playing fair.
No worries.
I think both Trish and Aaron have done a fabulous job in getting those questions answered. We are going to go right into the 201, but please, Aaron, Trish, if you want to talk about any of the particular questions that have come up, now would be a really great time if you'd like to jump in.
Okay, I have a question. How do I set it so my students only have speaker view, but I have gallery?
So viewing options are going to be available to everyone. So we can pin videos, we can spotlight videos, but the participants themselves will be able to set the video that they want to see. So at this time, we don't have the way to turn off everyone's video. We can hide anyone that is that does not have their video on, but at this time, it's either going to be speaker view or gallery view for all of the participants.
Thank you so much, Kyle and Kathy. Kyle, thank you for that great overview and so much information. We're going to switch over to 201. So if you're just joining us for the 11 o'clock session, I want to say welcome to you for coming in. We just finished up 101, which are some of the basics, and now we're going to go a little bit deeper into 201 session. I do want to say that all of your new accounts that are coming next week will hold up to 300 participants. So that'll be really great for parent nights, or if you have large group sizes to be able to hold in your Zoom accounts. So we're going to kick it over to Kathy for 201, Zoom 201, take us a little bit deeper into some of the awesome features that Kyle introduced us to.
Thanks. It is my pleasure to do this. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's see here. All right. So I am going to move this over here. and start over with you guys. My mouse is dying, so please bear with me for just a second. I tried to switch it out and just didn't have much luck. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and talk about a couple of different things today. I'm going to kind of play off of, is Kyle, are you seeing my screen, my slides?
Yes, I am.
All right, I'm going to go into presentation mode here.
And it's showing your full desktop, just so you're aware, so you could make it a little bit bigger if you need.
Thank you. How about now? Are we seeing the whole slide itself?
That is perfect.
Awesome. Thank you. So today we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about some of the things that Kyle talked about. We're going to look at things from maybe a deeper dive. Kyle did a fabulous job of presenting Zoom. I know that many of you have used Zoom before, so I hope that some of the things that you saw today might kick off some inquiries about, oh, that's pretty cool. How can I do this? So as he mentioned, the best thing to do, particularly with your settings, is to actually jump in, schedule a meeting. You can do this all by yourself to get used to using the annotation tools, just to familiarize yourself with those Zoom tools. What does it look like if I do this? I saw a lot of the questions. I'm a PE teacher. I teach dance and I want to flip my video. So just go in and click on every button that you can find. You will not, I promise, break anything. I promise you will not break anything. So practice, maybe grab some colleagues. One of your kids, maybe they're grounded and you want to make sure they understand how to do that again. You can make them sit through a Zoom meeting while you work on your settings. So let's go ahead and get started and we'll talk about some of these things. Now, I wanted to, with this advanced group, kind of expand the thought process just a little bit about K-12 and some education use cases. First of all, we always want to talk about teaching and learning. That is the most important job that you have. That's why most of you are using Zoom. But once you get comfortable, or as you get comfortable or more comfortable, kind of expand that thought process about how else can I use Zoom to make this experience of virtual learning or blended learning, hybrid learning, how can I make that experience just a little bit more enticing for my students? So think about the virtual engagement, the maybe tutoring and office hours over Zoom, maybe the mentoring programs. Think about virtual field trips. Think about teacher work groups. Think about school communications, interviews from an administrative point of view. So as you're finding your teaching and learning niche, kind of in the back of your mind, just think that maybe Zoom can be expanded in my repertoire. So here are just a few of those listed out again. You're going to get all of these slides, but I mentioned virtual field trips, safety information, being able to allow educators to simulcast, excuse me, simulcast classrooms, maybe another school across the district, maybe another school across the country. So as Kyle mentioned, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to log into Zoom. We have created, with Erin and Trisha's help, what we call a vanity URL. And that's right up here, this cms-k12-nc-us.zoom.us. Now, yeah, that's a lot of typing, but you're only going to have to do it one time. As you know, it's going to continue. Once you start typing that, it's just going to pop up for you. And what this means is we're not just going to go to zoom.us. We're going to go to our vanity URL. And what does that mean? That means that we may have a single sign-on enabled. So you would use your CMS credentials. And we can take that a step farther by saying that we are going to take advantage of this being our Zoom site and maybe do some branding. Maybe we'll end up with a picture of some of our students or a picture of the district or, you know, some part of the campus. So this is your Zoom site specific to you. This is where you would log in. Kyle mentioned earlier that you can log in with single sign-on. I think that's how we're going to go ahead and make sure that everyone is logged into Zoom. There's some other options, but for right now, we're going to go ahead and talk about just using single sign-on. I also wanted to just review the profile once again. So when you switch licenses, and I saw a lot of questions about switching licenses as well, you are going to have the same, excuse me, Zoom license that was available to you. So if you're missing any type of features, I saw some, you know, I don't have this feature anymore, make sure that you have updated to the most recent version of Zoom. So we're going to show you how to do that. But your Zoom profile, this is where you would upload that picture. So you would simply upload the picture. Another question I saw was, how do I have a picture of myself other than just a blank screen with my name? That's done right here on the profile page. So you would simply click on change, be able to upload a picture. And we really encourage that because this is all about engagement, all about that personal connection. So instead of just seeing your name, if you're unable to be on video for a minute, 5 minutes, or the entire meeting, at least there's that picture of you. Now, your personal meeting ID is a static meeting ID that was assigned to you. That will always be your personal meeting ID, but you have the opportunity of customizing that. So maybe for, you know, the month of October, you have this as your office phone number, so it's easy to remember. Maybe in November, you change that to make it something else. And you can also customize your personal meeting link. So maybe you want to use that just for parent-teacher conferences. So you would be able to change that link to Mrs. Jones' parent-teacher conference. Just again, think about that personalization, that connecting with your audience. Now, Kyle went over the settings. Did a great job of talking about all of the settings. The thing that I want to point out here is meeting security. So we have done a remarkable job of making sure that your students, particularly the K-12 students, are protected when they are in our care in a Zoom meeting. So we have added a great deal of security features that are to be enabled or disabled. Kyle mentioned that any setting that you're going to see in your profile is it's up to you from your personal settings to be able to enable or disable those settings. But anything that is locked and something as important as security was a discussion that was had with the Zoom admins, and they have put into place the security settings for your district. So what we're looking at here is screenshots. It's not necessarily what you're going to see, but I do want to point out a few of these security tabs and what is probably in place for you in your Zoom meetings. So the waiting room is exactly that. Now, we have the ability on what we refer to the back end, where your administrators make all of these choices, to turn on the waiting room, but we can say everybody from our schools can bypass that waiting room. So if we know that they're getting into this meeting, they belong in that meeting. But if somebody somehow either picks up that invitation and wants to join this meeting, the waiting room is the best way to make sure that they actually belong. And what you're going to see is on the participant window, you are going to see their name, and it's going to say that we want to, it's going to allow us to allow them into the meeting or to remove them from the meeting. So that's a great way to kind of manage who is actually getting into your meeting. In January, we are going to actually be adding the video portion of the person in the waiting room. So instead of maybe, you know, Tommy didn't study for his test and he would think it's really funny if, you know, he gave his brother his invitation. So, you know, be a delay in the Zoom meeting. You can actually see that it's not Tommy in the waiting room, it's actually Tommy's brother. So that's going to be a really big enhancement for continuing on our path of security for those participants in our meeting. Passcode when scheduling meetings, either new meetings coming up or past meetings. This means that when I share this invitation, there is going to be a passcode that's embedded into this meeting. So you're going to have to make sure that I did a presentation for teachers and parents not too long ago. And one of the main topics was to make sure that we instill in our kids that even though we're not in a brick and mortar situation, maybe today, I heard that some schools are coming back, but if they are in an online environment, that they have the same respect for their fellow students and for their teachers. And this means not sharing Zoom links. If you are supposed to have the Zoom link, you will have it. If you're not, it didn't come to you on purpose. So we do put that passcode in. Now, if somebody does get in, chances are pretty good that that passcode has been shared. So I really think that it's important that we kind of let the kids know that we're counting on them to make sure that our environment is safe and protected. Some of these other settings are the only authenticated users can join. This is something that has been discussed with your admins, so nothing you need to worry about. But when you see that on, just know that that is another layer of security towards protecting your students. Now, I also want to talk about the Zoom desktop application. Kyle talked about this in great detail, did a fabulous job, but there's been some new things added to the desktop application since maybe you've downloaded that. So I just want to point out some of these things as we're talking about this. Now, to install the Zoom client, you would simply go to zoom.us/download. And this is what you'll see. There are numerous downloads there, probably 5 or 6. The one that we're talking about right now is the Zoom client for meetings. So we call that the client. We call that the desktop version. That's just going to reside on your desktop. And I think this is where you're going to do most of your interacting with Zoom. The web portal is where you're going to set up your profile picture, maybe personalize your personal meeting ID and change your settings. But for the most part, most of your interaction with Zoom is going to be in that client or the desktop. Now you're going to sign in again using single sign-on. That's CMS-K12-NC-US. Remember, that's only going to have to be one time. But then you'll come to this screen. So it looks a little bit different than signing into Zoom. We're actually signing into the Zoom desktop. Now, it's so important that everyone pays attention to this little picture up in the top right corner. We're going to talk about the settings, but another option is update my Zoom client. So you're going to see check for updates through that picture. And what you're going to want to do is check for updates on a pretty regular basis. We had a 90-day moratorium on any new features or enhancements to Zoom while we worked solely on security. So now all of those feature requests are coming through fast and furiously, particularly in education, because education is now the largest vertical group within Zoom. So know that we are listening, we hear what you're asking for, and we're working diligently to make sure that each and every day we are adding those features. So always remember, maybe on Monday morning, Friday before you go home, check on that Zoom profile picture up at the top right, check for updates. So a couple of things, we'll go through this pretty quickly. The Mac and Windows versions, you're going to see both these based on, or you're going to see one or other of these based upon the device that you're using. But make sure that you kind of review these again if you haven't in a while, because there are going to be new features that are available here. This is where you're going to interact with your Zoom meetings. For one single meeting, hey, I want to turn this on or this off. Real easy to do through the desktop. So one thing I want to show here is adjust for low light. That's a new feature on the video settings. It's really very nice to be able to make sure that you're shining brightly when you're in the classroom, in the Zoom classroom with your students. So adjust for low light is something that I want everybody to try. And then again, touch up my appearance. This is now a slider bar. Before it was on or off, but you can actually see a difference when you're looking at your video to slide that slider bar. Some of the questions about PE teacher, dance teacher, this mirror my video is what I think that you'll want to do. Now, I did make the suggestion to someone and they let me know that it didn't change for them. I think it might have, but a great way to test is as you're looking at your settings, you're going to see this exact screen with your video there. Touch up my appearance, adjust for low light. And when you click near my video, scratch your head and see how it looks, and then turn it off and scratch your head again. You're going to see that your hands are going to be on different sides. So just try that out. I think that's going to work for you. Other things that we are seeing here is turn off my video when joining a meeting. So that's a setting in the web portal, but it's something here just as an example of how you can interact with the Zoom client. And that display up to 49 participants, I think is really, really very key. If you want to go ahead and see your entire class, let your class see each other. A lot of interaction takes place in those participant windows. We've got those reactions where we can give a thumbs up, thumbs down, party hat. And then another is spotlight my video when speaking. We had some questions about how can my students just see me. Turn on that spotlight my video when speaking. See if that does touch on exactly what you're hoping to do as far as viewing for your students. Audio, we've got the ability to turn on and off different speakers, different microphones. The thing I wanted to point out here is another new setting is suppress background noise. So we're all at home, most of us at home, some of us are at home, but it's a nice way to be able to really make a difference in that background noise, and you can select that noise suppression level. So something new that I want you to check on the audio settings page. Share screen has stayed pretty much the same, but make sure you review that. Kyle mentioned side-by-side mode, which is really nice to have turned on so you can see the shared screen with any shared content as well as your participants. Chat, I'm not quite sure if we're using Zoom chat. That is part of your Zoom license, part of the Zoom Unified Communications. So some people use Skype or Teams, tools like that. Zoom also provides a chat setting. So please check with either Aaron or Trish about Zoom chat and how that's going to be rolled out to all of you. Now, backgrounds and filters. This is new. So we've got a couple of different things here. We have the virtual backgrounds, which we've always had, the ability to just upload video, upload pictures. If I'm taking my students on a virtual field trip to Italy, I might want to have the Leaning Tower of Pisa behind me, so I would be able to really have that engagement with my students. We also have the ability to have videos now. So you can have short little MP4s going on behind you. So if we wanted to talk about anything that would be better served as an actual video, that can now become your virtual background. And it's very simple to add a virtual background just by clicking the right check with the plus sign. for add, and then you would just upload whatever you're looking to share with your students on that day. Now we have video filters. We have the ability to have that Snapchat kind of filter. Now this may or may not be turned on. I wanted to make you aware of it, but it may not be turned on for everyone because it's kind of that a fine line that you want to walk with kids. So I don't think that the kids are going to actually have Zoom licenses, so this may not be available for them, but it certainly is available for you. If we're talking about pirates today, I might want to put on my pirate hat and my eye patch and just kind of make sure that I'm engaging with my students. Now we also have studio effects, and these may not be pertinent again, but I just wanted to show that there are constantly new fun things coming out from Zoom. So always make sure again that you are updating your Zoom client. Now these are for recording settings. I don't think that these have changed. And then keyboard shortcuts. Kyle mentioned being a keyboard ninja. I'm kind of old school with my mouse and click and do all that. But for those of you, these are being added regularly. So please take a look at that. And then lastly, accessibility. And we're going to talk about transcriptions and captions as well. But this is just a nice way to enable some settings. The meeting controls, always show the meeting controls. We talked about how those sometimes get lost. This is a great opportunity to check that box for your meeting controls, and you can increase the size of the fonts from here. All right, so I also wanted to talk about a few things in the Zoom meeting controls. I'm not going to go into all of them like Kyle did, but I do want to show a couple of things that I think are really important. First, the ability to just click on the screen to be able to have those selections for muting, stopping video, spotlight video, pin video. We now have multi-spotlight, so you can actually have more than one person spotlighted or more than one person's video pinned. Now, that's something that you may want to look into further for any type of ASL translators that you may have brought into your class to be able to make sure that their video is always part of that main screen. We have the video views, and this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, the speaker view and the gallery view. So we're looking at Kit. Kit is, front and center. His video may have been spotlighted, but when we look at the gallery view, we saw that box for adding 49 participants to the gallery view, and we've just now recently added the ability to reorder those participants. So for someone who hasn't really answered a lot of questions, isn't real engaged in the class, I might want to move their video up to the top for me. Now, this is only going to show me this video that I've rearranged. So I could see that Bobby up in the top left corner, I'm going to keep him up there until he raises his hand. And that gives me a way to kind of manage those different students. I want to keep an eye on Alicia. She's feeling her oats today, so I want to kind of keep her front and center too. So the ability to actually create a gallery view that is specific to you as the teacher. Now, most importantly, I don't want to continue harping on security, but I know we all know how important it is, and especially for our little ones. So inside of a Zoom meeting, we've always had these features, but they've been located in either the participant window or chat or in the share screen. We've actually taken those, left them where they were, but made a copy of each one of those features and put them in a single tab called security. So from there, I can lock my meeting. I can enable the waiting room. I can real quickly turn off the screen share, the chat, the allowing students to rename themselves or unmute themselves. So why is that important? If by chance you are in a meeting and you get dropped as the host, one of those kids in that meeting is going to become a co-host. Now, what can I do to make sure that things are safe within that room. My suggestion that I want to share with you is back in my day, we used to call them room monitors. It was just somebody that understood the rules, played by the rules. You might want to find a student like that, maybe make it a weekly or a daily kind of award, if you will, and that person becomes the room monitor. So if something would happen that I was kicked out of the meeting, Jimmy knows that immediately he's to go to the security tab and he is going to lock the meeting so no one else can get in. He's going to enable the waiting room and he's going to turn off these things for everyone. So just kind of think about that. There's a great way to kind of have the kids be part of that. Not that we want it to be, you know, this job that they have to do, but just to make sure that there is someone in there. It doesn't happen often, but we do want a contingency plan. The other thing that I want to point out to you as a faculty member, and this has died down a bunch too, when the Zoom boom first hit, there were a lot of people that thought it was really funny to Zoom bomb meetings. And now we have the ability with just a single click to actually report that person and remove that participant. I actually call it the 3 R's really. The first thing, if not recording, I would turn the recording on. Then I would report this person, and then I would remove that participant. Because if we do have this turned over to trust and safety, where this goes, a video of you know, inappropriate things that might have been said or shared is always a great help. So the 3 R's: record, remove, report. Report, remove. And then again, we talked about the waiting room. This is what that's going to look like. So you're going to see when someone joins the waiting room. So we talked about this in the first meeting. Archie entered the waiting room. I can admit Archie, or I can select the X and remove Archie. Now, gosh, I'm teaching. I don't pay attention. How do I know when somebody's in the waiting room? We've also added on the participant pane, you can see who is joining the meeting and wanting admittance. And it will also put a red indicator dot there. Once you see that red dot to the left of the participant, so we have the participant icon, and then there's going to be a little red dot right there. That means that someone's in the waiting room. So you don't have to constantly be looking for that pop-up. We make it as easy as we can to just glance down at the participant list, which you're probably going to be looking at anyway, and you'll know that someone's entered the waiting room. This is exactly what it's going to look like. I can send a message to the waiting room. I know you're all out there. We're in the middle of something. I'll let you in a minute. So that would be broadcast to the entire waiting room. I could remove Alan Gray. I don't know who Alan is, and I'm not quite sure he's supposed to be in this meeting. Or I can admit Dawn because she let me know that she was running a little late this morning. And don't forget, in January, you're actually going to be able to see a video of who is in the waiting room. So a really nice feature that's coming. Now, also from the participants list, you can remove and report as well. So I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, I've got to get to that security tab. If something should happen, we make it very easy for you to find those controls. All right, now we want to talk about chat as well. When Aaron and I and Kyle and Trish met, we wanted to talk about some particular things, and one of them was chat. Now, it's the elephant in the room with chat. You know, this is a tool that business professionals use, higher education, hospitals. But when we talk about K-12, that's a little special group in my mind because, you know, words like shenanigans and bullying, a lot of different things come to mind. So with chat, please know that we have chat where everyone can chat with everyone. And I have private chat. Private chat is where 2 individuals can chat. I won't see it as the host. Only those 2 people will see it. So I think in K-12, it might be a good idea, at least my recommendation, to turn off private chat. Now, what about if my teachers want to use that? Well, you can certainly turn it back on, and maybe you will need it or want it in a meeting, you know, with colleagues. But with kids, I think, and it's my personal opinion, that it's probably a good idea to not have private chat on. You can automatically save chats. So a lot of good information is exchanged, when it's out in the open. So we can save those chats. We might ask kids to answer questions in chat. And then tonight when I'm grading papers, I might want to go back and look at those chats and actually glean that information that I asked them to share. Excuse me. Now I can also share files within chat. Now I saw somebody said, what's the difference between me sharing a file just generally or through chat in a meeting? When it's chat in the meeting, it will be part of that recording. So when I go back and I look at the file transfer, it will be something that is available. I can also now kind of specify file types. So I only want people to be able to share Word documents. I only want them to be able to share Excel files. And I can also put a maximum size on that file that I want to share. Before it was 512 megabytes. We have upped that to 2048 and given you the opportunity to kind of hone in on what can be shared. Now, in-meeting chats can be saved. They can be saved manually or automatically. Like we see, this top portion is actually the web portal. I can also save the chat from within the meeting. Chats will be saved locally on your computer. You can also manually save chats when you start a local recording. So this chat file is going to show up as a text file, a .txt file, and you'll find that in a folder called Zoom. And wherever that is, maybe it might be in your documents or your downloads, wherever you have that folder, that's where you're going to find that chat file. And here's some examples. Jesse is chatting out to everyone. Archie's chatting out to everyone. Now, within this chat, I can say, you know what, I need you guys to pay attention. I'm going to turn chat off. I can actually take this chat window that's going to be kind of moving around and merge it into my meeting window. So when I'm looking at my meeting window, my chat list is going to be connected to that meeting window, so I don't have to look around or find the chat or click on the chat button. The same holds true for your participant window as well. All right, now we wanted to also talk about screen share. So screen share is probably the biggest advantage for interaction, collaboration, the ability to share your entire desktop. We could see with my mouse kind of on its last leg here, I was having some trouble clicking on the right things to share, but I could share my entire desktop. I could share just a portion of my desktop. I could share PowerPoint presentation, which I'm doing. I could share from a Word doc, an Excel file, anything that's open. I don't have to upload anything prior to the training. I would just simply find what is open on my computer on my screen share window, select that, and then hit share, the big blue share button on the bottom, and voila, I am in a sharing mode with my participants. Now, if I wanted to share a YouTube video, a particular clip, a song, something outside of this Zoom environment, all I would have to do is select Share Computer Sound and optimize screen for full video clip. This allows the video and the sound to be in sync. It also allows me to speak over that video. So if I wanted to say, kids, now coming up after we see this horse run down the beach, watch what the horse does, and they're still getting the whole experience. Once that's done, I want to deselect those. So I don't want to leave them on, only for that sharing of a third-party video. And then just simply deselect them, and then that's going to put me back into optimum sharing in my Zoom window. Now, I wanted to point out this share as a virtual background. Let me see if I can do this real quickly just to show you. Hopefully it's going to work. let's see. I'm going to do this. So as you can see, I'm preparing my slides. What this is going to tell me is that moving forward, I am actually going to be on top of these slides. Kyle mentioned and alluded to this. Hopefully this is going to work pretty quickly. And it is in beta, but what this is going to do is it's going to have my slides as my actual virtual background, and it's going to put me right there on top of my slides. So this is the slide deck that we started out with, and I can actually move myself around on the slides. I can make sure that I am interacting and engaging with my students. So I'm going to turn that back off, but it's something that's pretty cool to try. And this will be part of the video as well. I can make myself bigger. So a really nice addition to that engagement portion of sharing slides. So let me go ahead and turn this back off. All right, I probably didn't share that properly, so let me go back to this one. All right. Are you seeing my slides again, Kyle?
We are not, no, we're seeing your Zoom screen.
Thank you. Let's try it again. Always make sure that your mouse is charged before a presentation. How about now?
Nada.
Nada.
Let's see. Is your share paused by chance?
It is not, but let's try that. Let's stop the share. And let's do now.
Seeing the share screen slides.
This is live. Let's do this. I'm gonna go ahead and, well, I'm just not sure. I am flabbergasted.
It looks like it's showing the PowerPoint right now. That same screen we were originally on.
Where I should go ahead and present from?
It says it's actually a slide from the PowerPoint deck that we're seeing.
And it says slides as a virtual background?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is where we want to be. And then we can see here also content from a second camera. So we mentioned that, even think about your camera as a second camera for Zoom. If you wanted to share a Word document while I was sharing something else on my shared screen, having the ability to actually have another screen. The example I always get is think about maybe with the older kids, like a biology class. And I remember from my days, we would, have a frog and we'd pin open the frog. That could be on your document camera as we're actually looking at a picture of the internal parts of a frog. So we could have the picture and actually looking through the document camera and seeing real live dissections. All right. Now, when we share that whiteboards were one of the first selections we had in the basics screen. So when I share a whiteboard or a document, I have the ability to annotate. Now, I can give the ability to annotate to my students. I can only annotate myself. As we saw in the security tab, I can stop that annotation and screen share immediately. So never feel that you can't get away from something that is maybe not what you intended for your students to see. So when I turn on my actual annotation, I have several things that are available to me. Now I can just use my mouse and just scroll around with my mouse. I can select a portion of my screen. I can actually have a text box. So if I wanted to add text, I would simply add that text box and then click out of it where I could add stamps, I could draw, I could put a circle around something, an opaque circle, a fully filled circle, squares, arrows. Stamps are great. Where's my stamps? Stamps are going to be hearts, they're going to be check marks, they're going to be X's. So a nice way to have that, again, that collaboration. I heard one example where a teacher actually put up 3 book covers, and they were talking about which holiday book that they were going to read, but she wanted all the students to be able to vote. So you were supposed to put a heart on your first choice, a check mark on your second choice, and a X on your third choice. And they actually had a vote about what holiday book that they were going to be reading in class. So having the students actually be engaged and having a vote. I can change colors. I can change line widths. I can bold a font. So if I'm making anything, in a text box that I really want to show, I can go ahead and bold or italicize that. I can also change the font size. I can undo. I can, redo. I can actually clear this board. I could clear my drawings, or I could clear every drawing, and I can save these whiteboards. So many times whiteboards have just such great information. And what you're going to see on a whiteboard down in the lower right corner is actually a plus sign. And that is take me to the next whiteboard. So I don't have to go back to my share screen. I'm actually able to continue to add whiteboards. I can share those whiteboards, and then maybe we haven't finished discussing or we haven't finished voting. I can bring those whiteboards back into my next meeting, and we can go from there. Now, when I am sharing, my Zoom window is, my Zoom toolbar is going to go away with all those different things that I was able to see when my toolbar is fully functional. But I would simply go to the ellipsis under More. It's always going to be on the right-hand side. And I have those same exact selections. I can record. We saw record to the computer or to the cloud, closed captions, breakout rooms. I can disable attendee annotation. I can also show or disable the name of the annotators. So if I wanted to keep tabs on what people were annotating, I have the ability to show the name of the annotators on my screen. All right, in addition to that, please practice. It's so easy to just go to your desktop, to your Zoom desktop. On the home page of your Zoom desktop, you're going to see 4 buttons. One of them says New Meeting. Click on New Meeting. You are in a Zoom meeting. You're in a Zoom meeting by yourself. You can share screens. You can annotate. You can practice anything that you want to do. I do suggest practicing with arrows, using your mouse to annotate, circle. So just get really good at it. So when your kids see you, they know that you're a pro when you're using the annotation. Now, Zoom allows for closed captions. So there is a selection that in your web portal that is closed captioning. You would be able to turn that on within the portal. And then what you'll do is you'll be able to assign someone to type. I can type as the host, or I can use a third-party CC service. Now, if you have a student that has declared themselves either deaf or hard of hearing and does require some ADA transcribed captioning, then you will probably need to use a third party, because I believe that to be ADA compliant, it does require a 2-pass. But Zoom is now providing to all of our K-12 clients the live transcription service. So all of you in this meeting have the ability to use live transcriptions. So live transcription is going to be just that. It's going to be a window on the right side of your screen. It's provided by Otter AI. So it is 95% accurate. It's a wonderful tool. It is not ADA compliant, I'm just going to say that, but it is really remarkable. And that is given to all of our K-12 K-12 student, K-12 customers. So please know that that's available for you. If I choose to type myself, I did this last night. I would type down here, begin typing closed captions. And when I hit enter, that puts that up into the broadcast, which looks like this. So it'll have a timestamp with it, and then the captions will actually show as they're being typed. We also have language interpretation that is part of everyone's Zoom license. So if you have Hispanic, Chinese, German, Italian students that you want to provide language interpretation, maybe even for a parent-teacher conference, you have the ability when scheduling a meeting to turn on language interpretation. Now, Zoom does not provide the interpreter, but what we do provide is an additional channel where you can have an interpreter actually speak over that channel to your audience. Everyone else would be hearing it maybe in English as their first language, but those who require English is their second language, then you could have that interpreted for them simply by selecting that feature when you're scheduling your meeting. And it'll be I set this up last night, so I was going to be the interpreter and I was going to interpret from English to German. I did that in my web portal. And then when I started my meeting, I saw this interpretation button and it says English and German interpretation is available. So your user would simply click on that. You know, here we're coming to the end. Super duper important for everyone. Please, please, please bookmark support.zoom.us. Why? Because from there, you are going to have the ability to interact with the live trainings that we do on a daily basis. Zoom provides live training every day. Anyone is welcome to take that training as many times as you'd like. Those sessions are all recorded. So we provide those, and they're always done within the last week or two. So you're always looking at the most recent features and functionality of Zoom. It's not going to be a version from way back when. It's always going to be the newest features. We have video tutorials available there. So just short little 1-2 minute videos. How do I start a meeting? How do I record? How do I share a recording? All of those are available to you. You also can support send in support tickets. As users of the product, you have access to our chat functionality with our support staff. So if you're running into any issues, I don't know if the plan is for you to reach out to an internal help desk first. There may be people that are supporting you from your actual organization so they can answer questions not only about Zoom, but maybe Zoom in your environment. Or if the plan is to reach out to Zoom support, just make sure you have the meeting ID, any users that might have been impacted, some screenshots. The more information that you can provide to us, the better that will be in helping us resolve whatever issues there are for you. I do really recommend that, since there are so many people using Zoom now, that you do go to the resources and support page first, because chances are pretty good you're going to find answers there, but our support team is available if not. Now, up in the top right corner, you're going to see the top 20 resources. You're going to find getting started guides, links to all of our different top 20 joining a meeting, recording meetings, just like those video tutorials. This will be the actual support page that's listed under the top 20 resources. But something more importantly that you'll find there, it's the first selection, and it's Zoom support during COVID-19. And we have created a page specifically for educating over Zoom. This is available to all of you, support.zoom.us, top 20 resources, educating over Zoom. So 3 clicks, it'll get you to this page, and then you'll see best practices for securing your classroom, tips and tricks, blog posts. We did a K-12 Zoom Summer Academy in July, where we trained over 35,000 educators. So those videos are out there. Anything that you want, please make sure that you check these out. And I think that you're going to find some helpful tips and techniques there. Kyle shared these as well, just some tips and best practices. test your audio and video, have your content ready, turn your camera on. So things that will be sent to you through this slide deck that we're going to be sharing. So we've got about 5 minutes. You guys have been wonderful. You've stayed with us for 2 hours. That's a long training session. I completely understand if several of you nodded off, but if there are any questions that Trish or Aaron that came up, we're happy to answer those now.
Is there anything that you can share with us about polls? We've had lots of questions about polls and interest in that, which is a great feature for using with our students.
Of course. So polls actually are going to be something that you will, let me try to get out of here and move my screen over. Down at the bottom of your screen in the toolbar, you're going to see polling. And polls are something that you will create just like you would when you're creating a meeting through either a meeting created through the web. You're going to see the options for polls. And for polling, it's really very simple. It's probably 4 different screens. The first is to create a poll. And you would simply put in I don't think I have any polls here. So this is exactly what it looks like. Let me see, let me share my screen here. So I clicked on poll down here and it's adding, it popped up the polls. Now you can do this before or in meeting. So I'm going to add a question. Move this out of the way. I'm going to new share again. So I'm going to, it's just not working with this mouse of mine. I am so sorry. So what I would do is just add a question. What is your favorite color? And right now polls are single answer or multiple choice. And I could have red, blue, green. I would simply launch the poll by selecting launch poll. Then that would show up to everyone. The poll has a timer on it. So for the next 40 seconds, I'm going to let you think really hard about what your favorite color is. And then after I launch the poll, those results will come piling in. I will be able to see that. And then once that's done, I can share the poll results. So it's all very simply clicking on add a question, launch the poll, share the poll, end the poll. Now, a lot of times I say, if we're starting a new chapter in a book, maybe launch a poll at the beginning of the week, that chapter, and you can say, this week we're talking about Christopher Columbus. What year do you think that Christopher Columbus discovered America? And we could have those different choices. Then at the end of the week, after we've gone through this entire chapter, we could show that poll again and see where our answers were. So when you share the poll out to everyone, everyone's going to be able to see those poll results. You're also going to be able to share, to save those poll results and report upon them. So if you wanted to share a particular, what's your favorite book, out of these 3, I could go back and look at those poll results through a report. So very easy to do. You can do it ahead of time, or you can actually do it in meeting with a fully charged mouse.
Thank you.
Of course.
One other feature is the interpretation feature.
Ooh.
Could you give us a little bit of information around the interpretation feature and what that means?
Sure. The language interpretation?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the screen, that was the slide that I showed that can be enabled again from the actual meeting within the web. When you go to schedule a meeting, you're going to have some options that are join before host. There's about 5 or 6 checkboxes, and one of them is language interpretation. And when you select that, that gives you the opportunity to put in an email of someone that's going to be doing your interpretation for you. So that person, when they join the meeting, they're going to be added to a channel outside of this channel that we're communicating on. So if they're going to be interpreting in Chinese, I can click on that interpretation button that you'll see down in your Zoom toolbar, and it will actually have a notation that this is available in English and Chinese. And if I'm listening in Chinese, I would click on that interpretation and I would hear that interpretation. I would still be in the main meeting, and we would still be able to, at some level, hear the English version, if that was what we were presenting in. But as joining that interpretation channel, I would actually be able to hear in Chinese as well. So great for maybe parents that English is their second language, if you need to have meetings with them, or students as well.
Kathy, do you want to pass the host controls to me real quick, and then I can run them through a quick poll example?
Oh, I would love that. Wish me luck.
Absolutely.
Ah, thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely. Let's get this up and running here.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Here. All right, are you guys able to see my Zoom screen here?
I am seeing myself, you, Aaron.
Perfect. All right, let's get that bigger then.
And Kyle, I do need to jump to a meeting. You are the host. Are you okay with finishing up?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll give them the quick run through here on our, on the polling feature, and then we should be good to go.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
All right,
sincerely appreciate your time today.
All right, guys. So our polling feature we have here, let's go ahead and get one started.